Anna? Would you join us? Carlos? Let me see. It should be safe. The state attorney's office.
Watch this.
Why don't you come sit? Good afternoon, everyone. As you probably know, Florida, with its 22.5 million residents, has the third largest population in the United States. What you may not have known is that more than 50% of those residents live in condominiums or in homeowners associations. Some 3 million Floridians live in Florida's 1.5 million condominium units, and roughly 9.6 million people in Florida live in the state's 49,000 communities with homeowners associations. Communities, and many, if not most of these associations, are governed by honest volunteer owners. These are just statistics until some kind of a criminal conduct or an election fraud occurs involving a condo board member or members or the homeowners association member of a management company. That is when a condo owner or homeowner in an HOA learns how little protection Florida's existing laws actually provide them. It's much like a flag in a hurricane. Those condo owners and homeowners find themselves just fluttering wildly in the wind. You may remember this, the Hammocks, the residents in our own backyard. Many may remember the homeowners and the Hammocks know firsthand of the battle they and we in law enforcement had trying to get corrupt individuals removed from the HOA board. Just to refresh your memory, the Hammocks is the size of Key Biscayne, or equals the population of Miami Springs. These are little cities. After nearly 2 years, we ended up charging former board members with money laundering, racketeering, organized fraud, and grand theft. You'll see there, you may remember this, I believe most of you were at that press conference, and you will see also that these are the charges that we were able to finally, after nearly a 2-year investigation, put together. With me today are a lot of folks that really care and want Florida's laws to be stronger. We have with us, of course, our very distinguished Madam Mayor Daniela Levine Cava, who's been working with us on HOAs throughout the community. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for being here today. She has a really good announcement of what our efforts, or her efforts, are in this regard. We have Representative Juan Carlos Porras, excuse me, I didn't mean to point in front of you, standing next to the mayor's left. He is the House sponsor of the bill, and he wholeheartedly supports the amendments that we have proposed. And co-sponsor State Senator Ana Maria Rodriguez. She's not here with us today. She wanted to be here today, but she had a pre-scheduled conflict outside, and she completely supports us, and we want to thank her for all her efforts. Representative Porras, thank you. You've been working on this we've been working on this for a couple of years, and we really thank you for persevering and being with us here today with this proposed bill. To my right is Miami-Dade Commissioner Robert Gonzalez, who met with me some time ago, and he said, I really care about this issue. I want to be front and center on it. I want to do what I can do. And he has very strong feelings, and I'm so glad that you did reach out to us, Robert. He wants to help reform the laws. He will talk about what his concept is at a county level to do this. So if we could just go back to that, what I want to say is what happened in the Hammocks, maybe, and I say maybe very gratuitously, is happening in many communities throughout Miami-Dade County. And if it can happen here, it can happen everywhere and anywhere in Florida. Wherever there's a large pool of cash with virtually no oversight, that's where it's going to happen. I would like to introduce my incredible team, the chief of my investigations unit, Emiliano Tamayo, this gentleman here. He practically single-handedly, with John Pericles, who's standing directly behind me, is our deputy chief assistant for special prosecutions. He, along with Mary Ernst, one of our other ASAs, really put together single-handedly the Hammocks case. We're also with us, our Ana Dayton is standing here from the Hammocks, and Carlos Villalobos, right here behind the mayor. They have been incredible and courageous in their efforts, and we thank you so much for your diligence and perseverance and your strength. So, the reason we're all here today is because we are here to show our support of new legislation that will offer very important, necessary protections for owners of condominiums and other homes that are governed by HOAs. The reforms this legislation provides are: it reduces election fraud. It gives owners greater access to records, and it outlaws kickbacks. On elections, the election law changes. We are recommending criminalize fraudulent activity in association elections. Shockingly, fraudulent election activity in association elections, even blatant frauds, are not crimes in Florida. They're not crimes. There's no criminal penalty. So even if there are corrupt elections in Florida, and we give the wrong people access to the association's reservoir of cash, some might even say a cash cow, and they steal that money, and they violate those laws, there is no criminal penalty for a kickback, for sure. You remember the recent chaotic election scene that we had at the residence of the Hammocks. I think many of you were there, where they tried to elect a new board. I think here, thanks to Channel 10, you will remember this scene out at the Hammocks Association. This is Channel 10 reporting. You may remember one of our senators went out to the scene. It looks like we have some technical difficulties.
Resident
Are we
after
playing
resident showing up to
There we
pay
go.
association fees, but no answer at the clubhouse following a pretty chaotic night.
We haven't voted in 5 years.
It was supposed to be a simple process, voting for leadership of the Hammocks Community Association. Hundreds of homeowners waiting in line were abruptly turned away. COVID protocols moving things slowly, and then officials say a threat was made by phone. Things got so heated, Senator Annette Taddeo was called out to help, but even she was denied entry and couldn't supervise the voting process.
Homeowners were given a ballot and the first shot in a few years to vote in a new board of directors under social distancing rules.
Honest election, stop corruption.
But the process stopped in its tracks, which only fueled skepticism.
So the reforms that we're proposing, it make it a crime to engage in any activity that corrupts an association's election process. We need to protect the integrity of the voting process, particularly since some associations in Florida, like the Hammocks, virtually function like small municipalities. And so what we did was we made the law mirror our state laws on public elections and votings. Records. Our records reforms are desperately needed to give homeowners and condo owners transparency to the association records. In our experience, access to association financial records allow owners to expose wrongdoing long before amounts of money can disappear or be stolen. While the present law does allow access to records, enforcement is weak at best, and it requires filing a civil lawsuit. These proposed reforms would make it a crime to destroy or hide financial records. It would require retention of specific financial and accounting records like credit card statements, invoices, receipts, deposit slips. It would require associations to publicly appoint a records custodian so that there is a named individual responsible for turning over the records. It makes it a felony for any person who refuses to produce association records with the intent to avoid punishment for the commission of crime. Additionally, this new legislation finally makes it a crime for board members to accept kickbacks. While we know that any public official who takes a kickback commits a crime, there's no criminal punishment for a board member taking a kickback when they're awarding a condominium or an HOA contract, like the painting or the landscaping, but they get a kickback. As many of you may know, allegations of criminal acts should be reported to the police, and the police then investigate the allegations and make an arrest if appropriate. Well, in the Hammocks case, the Miami-Dade Police Department and the detectives assigned did their best, Madam Mayor, but in the end they were sued by the Homeowners Association. And then we picked up the pieces as an office, and we took over the investigation, and then they sued us. So one of the things that we're proposing is that every complaint that goes to the police or to the Department of Business and Professional Regulation be forwarded to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement so that they can investigate the criminal wrongdoings and the enforcement of some of these new crimes that we are recommending. So what do we need? We need you. You in the media have been great getting the word out. Truly, you have been. We need those that are listening. We need all those homeowners that we talked about. We need those millions of Florida residents that may or may not be victims of these bureaucratic dynasties that take over. So we will be putting up here in just a few minutes who to contact. You contact your state representatives, your state senators. I'm going to turn it over now to our mayor to say a few words, and then Representative Porras, who will tell you he needs your help. And we're going to be there for you in Tallahassee. We'll be up and down those halls supporting you. So, Madam Mayor, would you like to?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to our state attorney for always being on top of issues of fraud in our community and protecting our residents. And it's a great honor for Miami-Dade County to work closely through our police department and through other arms. We work on many important issues to protect our residents. And I'm so grateful to Representative Porras for bringing this bill, long overdue, to have some additional protections and controls in place for these homeowner associations. And to my colleague, Robert Gonzalez, our commissioner, who's bringing legislation on Tuesday to support this bill. Thank you so much. Thank you for always protecting our residents. And to your great team and to our brave residents who've come forward. It takes when you see something, say something, and then just keep saying it until you get someone to act on it. In this case, you is what you did, Madam State Attorney. So this, as you've heard, is legislation critically important to protect our homeowners, so many of whom live in condominium and homeowners associations. I've long been contacted by unhappy residents for a range of problems that they experience and the lack of their ability to have true accountability. Certainly with the Surfside building collapse, some of the issues of failure to properly notify residents of concerns in the building, properly keep records about building deficiencies and the need for investing in repairs came very much to light. And as a result of that, the county commission took a leadership role, and Commissioner Rene Garcia was our leader there in creating some greater transparency. So we now have a registry. It's a dashboard. All condominium and homeowners associations are obligated to provide information about finances, membership, reports, anything that would be critical for a homeowner or a prospective homeowner to learn about to know the safety of the buildings. So that's just another way that we are working to try to protect our homeowners from, basically from governments, really small governments that are making critical decisions on their behalf, and there hasn't been adequate access to that information and transparency. I also want to just mention that we've created a fund, a zero interest loan fund for those residents who cannot afford to make the necessary repairs, because safety is also a key issue along with fraud. And so just yesterday we had a press event about that, and we hope that we'll be able to help many, many hundreds, if not thousands, of homeowners who qualify to be able to get access to the funds they need to make necessary repairs that may have been covered up or not known about for many years. So this is going to bring in the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, as you've heard. They will be able to add another layer of protection for investigation to protect people and their pocketbooks from fraud. It also prohibits the association funds and reserves from being used by a developer, the association, or board members for legal costs associated with such complaints, which I think is one of the things that we've seen unfortunately happen too often. So the bill's record-keeping provisions are critically important, as was mentioned by our state attorney, and this will allow us to really keep track of what is happening, how our homeowners associations are spending the money for the benefit of those they are responsible for. So this was very upsetting, the large case of fraud that was uncovered at the Hammocks, but we know that there are abuses, unfortunately, many places. Oftentimes, it's lack of public awareness that unfortunately leads to these problems. It may not even be so intentional, so it's so very necessary to have transparency. So we're working together here. Our police department has a real estate fraud squad. They're going to continue to actively investigate these cases alongside the partners at the state attorney's office. So we're going to work to do everything we can to keep our homeowners safe and to make sure that their hard-earned dollars are spent for their needs. Thank you so very much, Madam State Attorney.
Representative Porras.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you again, Madam State Attorney, for all your assistance with this legislation. As you know, this is very dear to me and my community, and I'm honored to stand beside these great public servants and work on this legislation together. It's very personal to me. I mean, I've knocked on thousands of doors in my community, especially in the Hammocks, and the number one concern was the lack of transparency and the lack of accountability in these homeowner associations and these condos. So it is my pleasure to sponsor, I think, one of the largest pieces of legislation addressing HOAs and condos, I think, in Florida history. So HB 919 will be referred to as the Community Association Bill of Rights. I think the Madam State Attorney summarized it very well, but it establishes a set of rights that supersedes HOAs and condo bylaws, including the right to transparency in documents, which we've seen has been such an issue as we all articulated, and it ensures that board members are criminally responsible for any monetary damages, including embezzlement, including monetary theft, and that obviously with the help of our partners in the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, we want to make sure that our agencies work hand in hand with our state attorneys across the state and make sure that these abuses are kept and bad actors put away. And I just want to thank everyone again for being here today.
Thank you so much.
That's great. Yeah.
Just before I introduce, our commissioner here, I do want to say that the mayor brought up Surfside, and I just want to call to your attention, there was a very extensive grand jury report that was done on Surfside and talked about, of course that was a condominium, but the different issues that are involved at that kind of a homeowners association and how the lack thereof, some of these provisions contributed to the very sad, tragic collapse that we all witnessed firsthand. And then Representative Porras really made a push last session, sort of armed with that information, to try to get it passed, but it failed. So we want to go back again now and see if we can do that. So I want to thank you for your perseverance, because you didn't give up, and we're not giving up. So with that, Commissioner Gonzalez, would you please join us?
Commissioner, this is your call. Would you bend the mic up a little?
Absolutely, sir. Is that good?
Thank you.
So first and foremost, I'd like to thank the state attorney for having me here. I'd like to thank Juan Porras and our wonderful mayor for having me here. You know, it is a dream to own a home in the United States of America. I remember when my parents bought their first home. I remember when I bought my first home. And it is an incredible injustice, I could tell you from experience, to have put everything forward to purchase your own home and then be taken advantage of. But let me tell you something. Today is a testament to justice. And that justice is not just by public officials like Juan Porras and public servants like State Attorney Rundle and public servants like the mayor. It is due to the perseverance, the passion, and the relentlessness of homeowners who had the courage to speak up. Ladies and gentlemen, let this be a lesson to our county, to our country, and to our state, that if you want something done, you can speak up and your public servants will hear you. I can tell you that at a county level, what we will be doing, and I'm talking about my office in particular, we're going to be filing an urgency that is going to come before the board on Tuesday to urge the state legislator to give these homeowners justice. I will personally be getting on a plane on Tuesday to go to Tallahassee and rally for this with Representative Porras. Aside from that, once this bill passes, and I pray to God that it does, we will be filing a bill at the county level to give it some teeth here in Miami-Dade County. Ladies and gentlemen, if you get involved in the political process, if you let your representatives and your public officials know how they can help, I promise you that they're going to do everything in their power like these people have and like I will to protect you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Very powerful. And thank you for the passion that you have on this issue.
Yes, ma'am.
Anna, do you want to step up and?
Well, I want to say something.
Good, yes, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is, move over here. Yes, Ada Dayton. I think I mentioned her earlier. She was with the Hammocks. Well, she lives in the Hammocks.
I
And
live
she
in the
has
Hammocks.
a story to tell.
Well, I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I'm going to tell people that are listening today. The ball is in your court. This is your time to do something. If you don't do it now, you will never have a solution to the problem that is in existence at the present time. You have an opportunity. It's like I say to my homeowners in the Hammocks, we don't deserve what happened, but we look forward when we didn't participate, and that's what we're trying to avoid now. We don't want to look forward to that when people don't participate. We need to make action. We have to, protect our home, protect our community. We have to support the people that support us. And it will be up to you if you don't do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So now, before we go to Spanish, we're going to open it up to. Very well done. It was beautiful. Thank you. We're going to open it up to questions in English. Yes, of course.
One of the main, talking to people who've been through similar things like what happened in your community, the main frustration that we have found is the lack of enforcement resources, right? So first there's the question of where do I go? Local police department saying, oh, it's a civil issue. They go to the DBPR, which is now has been the mechanism to report these complaints. They feel like, in their words, they get brushed off.
They do.
And it goes nowhere. And then there's the issue of DBPR having limited resources to handle all of these communities that you guys pointed out. Would the FDLE component make these complaints go through a different channel? How would this work? Because it's the number one frustration.
It really is, and I definitely will. We're both happy to talk about it because it's a very frustrating situation because everything you just said is exactly right. And so you may remember we wrote an editorial and basically said that DBPR is impotent. And the reason that they're impotent is because the law is impotent. The law doesn't have teeth, and they are overwhelmed with complaints. So one of the hopes is that we will be able to channel. We've created another channel for all of those complaints, and it says that they have to, if they believe there's something criminal, they have to give it to FDLE.
Correct.
And we will have the ability to give it to FDLE. I will tell you, and then I want Representative Porras, who's dying to talk about this issue. We just since the Hammocks case, we had almost 400 contacts, and that's just us. I'm sure everyone up here has been having all kinds of contacts. So there's such a desperate need to provide some response and action and justice for those that reach out.
Is there a new division needed? I've heard people suggest taking the division of condos, timeshares, et cetera, out of DBPR, but I don't know, maybe the FDLE component will fix that. You would know about
Correct, yes, and in conversations with all these state agencies, I think the best course of action for now is we're allowing FDLE the jurisdiction to investigate crimes in these certain statutes and to work hand in hand with DBPR. And part of the legislation that the state attorney addressed says that when a resident issues a complaint to DBPR that alleges criminal activity, they have to forward that to the Department of Law Enforcement within 72 hours, I believe that the bill says, if it even alleges criminal activity. So that allows them the ability to not only work within their own department, but work with our state attorneys statewide and make sure that these allegations are dealt with in a promptly and timely manner.
If I could just add also, the registry that has been created at the county level is a mandatory registry, and it carries fines of up to $1,000 per failure to report. So it has a little bit of teeth there.
concern about enforcement, though, because with all of these new rules, the other complaint we hear is we're talking about county agencies, state agencies that have a lot of work to do. Nobody's saying that they don't, and so there's a concern that with all of these requirements, who's making sure people are in compliance and who's making sure they're following these
Right.
rules?
Well, just as far as the reporting on the dashboard, there was a workshop, 520 condominiums were represented, and we are actively reaching out to them to get them to comply.
My other question is, it's probably similar to what you just said, but does this law include something like, I know that you're proposing that any acts would become considered criminal, which before they were not. Would there be anybody, perhaps like an agency, and I don't know if it's FDLE, that once they know that exists, they will go directly over to that community to find out, okay, we're getting complaints that this is happening, we want to foresee, open up the papers, we want to see if we're complying. Does the law include that too?
Well, I envision that as being part of the investigation.
Right.
So in other words, it would be like almost any complaint that one would get, right? This particular activity is occurring, and once that goes into the hands of an investigative authority, which in this case, DBR would get it, and this is the way it should work, and then it would go to FDLE. They then have the ability to go and investigate it. They would get subpoenas from their local state attorney. They could work with local police. They'll look for patterns, other complaints. That's part of the whole investigative process, really. Go look at the records. I want to see the receipts, that kind of stuff. Where's your spending? Where are your receivables? So I would say that is hopefully what we're going to be putting in place.
But I mean, like, using again the example of Hammocks, I mean, when people were complaining and they did not have access to their financial records, and they said nobody can see them, so getting investigators was really hard to get because even investigators were blocked from going forward. So would there be like some sort of a task force or something that, okay, we are here to go on forward and we want to see this because we would like to verify about these complaints that we're getting?
And I think that's a great question, and the reason it's a great question is because that includes the frustration that one feels when they come out and they talk about this. I think that is why this bill was so necessary, because it actually does provide teeth and levels up a lot of these issues to a criminalized level. When we get to the criminalized level, and correct me if I'm wrong, Madam State Attorney, that is when the police actually have the authority to go in there and conduct that criminal investigation, whereas before, it's almost like their hands were tied. And it was almost like you were complaining for the sake of complaining. Does that make sense? But with that being said, their voices were heard in the legislation that Representative Porras is filing. This now not only gives it teeth, elevates it to a criminal level, and the police is going to be able to get in there, make that investigation, and hopefully make arrests if it is so necessary.
Right, and just to clarify on your question, the bill does specify the new felony charges for failure to provide the financial documents, and that, as it is, gives the tools necessary for law enforcement and the state attorney to get involved, which is why that process was elongated so much over the years. There was no law such as this in the past that would give the state attorney or state attorneys statewide the ability to investigate this sort of issue, and now with this piece of legislation, we're addressing that.
So, and it just, in addition to everything that these fine men have enlightened us with, part of the other problem was, you may remember, because I think you covered this case, we were in court. The homeowners were in court. We were all trying to get access to those records. And because they were able to fight it successfully in civil court, they just, at every turn, we were not able to get the records in civil court. It was extremely difficult for almost 2 years, I believe, Tamaya, wasn't it? So, you know, that's not right. That's just not right. No, you can't do business with millions of dollars that way. Or in any, even less money. So we're hopeful that this will, one, it heightens it, like Commissioner Gonzalez said, but it also, it's an awareness issue. I mean, all the civil courts, all the judges, police, DBPR, homeowners associations, everyone will start, it's kind of like an awareness. Now we know this is serious, and there are going to be serious consequences if we don't do A, B, and C like we're supposed to under the law. Any other questions? Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
I think you covered it pretty well.
All right, then we're going to go to Spanish. Bear with us, me, they're fine. Do you want to break down English, or are you going to stay? Because you can't do it in the middle of the broadcast. It's not fair to them. We're going to stay. Okay. If you're going to stay. Okay, we're staying, because we have to give them silence that they're due, okay? La Florida tiene la tercera población más grande en los Estados Unidos, con 22.5 millones de residentes. El 50% de ellos viven en condominios o en asociaciones de dueños de casa. Estas son solo estadísticas hasta que ocurre algún tipo de conducto criminal o fraude electoral por parte de miembros de la Junta del Condominio o asociación de dueños o compañía de administración. Allí es cuando se ve la poca protección que en realidad tienen los residentes con las leyes que existen ahora en la Florida. Hoy estamos aquí para apoyar la nueva legislación presentada en Tallahassee por la senadora Ana María Rodríguez y el representante Juan Carlos Porras. Esta, por supuesto, de la ley ofrece protecciones importantes para los propietarios en condominios y viviendas regidas por HOAs. Estas reformas reducen el fraude electoral, da mayor acceso a los documentos de las asociaciones y protejan contra sobornos. Recomendamos cambios en la ley para penalizar el fraude en las elecciones de las asociaciones. Si las elecciones son corruptas, personas con malas intenciones pueden llegar a tener acceso a la reserva de efectivo de la asociación como si fuera su propia mina de oro. Nuestras reformas dan una mayor transparencia a los documentos y cuentas de la asociación. Hemos visto que cuando existe acceso a los documentos, los dueños pueden exponer malas acciones antes que alguien pueda robar grandes cantidades de dinero. Con esta nueva ley será un delito que una persona destruya registros contables, que un director o miembro del board no cumpla con la ley de transparencia de documentos, y hace un delito mayor que cualquier persona rehúsa producir los documentos de la asociación con la intención de evadir castigo o comisión de un delito. Y también será un delito mayor que el miembro del board acepte sobornos a aprobar contratos. Hay algo importante que todos podemos y debemos hacer. Llamen y envíen un correo electrónico a sus senadores y representantes estatales para exigir que nuestra legislatura fortalezca y cree leyes que protejan a cada uno de nosotros. Alcalde.
Ok, sí, algunas palabras. Gracias a la fiscal Rundle, nuestro representante Porros, el comisionado González y todos que han ayudado, especialmente los residentes que han dicho la verdad. En medio de la crisis de vivienda que estamos enfrentando, situaciones como estas hacen que el problema sea aún peor, a veces obligando a las familias a vender o perder sus hogares. Y esta ley protegerá a nuestros residentes y sus bolsillos al aumentar la supervisión de las asociaciones de condominios y propietarios para evitar que haya más fraude y proteger el bolsillo de nuestros residentes. Cuando los HOAs son responsables, los residentes pueden estar tranquilos y nuestro condado puede prosperar. Por eso el gobierno del condado de Miami-Dade está tomando medidas también aquí locales desde el año pasado para supervisarlas. Y ya lanzamos nuestro nuevo sitio web con la información de condominios y HOA gracias al liderazgo del comisionado René García para que haya más transparencia, que también tiene multa de $1,000 si no participan. Ya lanzamos también este squad de fraudes de bienes raíces de la policía que sigue investigando estos delitos junto con la oficina de la fiscal. Y le hacemos un llamado a los legisladores estatales que aprueban reformas como esta ley, muy, muy importante para proteger a los propietarios de apartamentos y condominios, ayudarnos a tomar medidas más fuertes contra el fraude. Juntos podemos proteger nuestros dueños y comunidades que han trabajado tan fuerte para ganar la oportunidad de pertenecer sus hogares. Gracias.
Gracias, alcalde. Representante Porras.
Gracias, señor alcalde, y gracias a la fiscal estatal, Fernandez Rundle, por todo su apoyo en esta propuesta. Yo soy el representante Juan Carlos Porras. Es la prioridad número uno para mí desde que me elegí a la Cámara de Representantes ha sido esta propuesta para las asociaciones y los condominios. Yo represento al área de los Hammocks, el área del Kendo, que hay miles de propietarios que me han hecho quejas sobre estos fraudes y estos abusos de poder, y por eso es un honor para mí proponer esta ley, que es la ley más grande que va a poner más contabilidad y transparencia para las asociaciones en la historia de nuestro estado. La propuesta se va a llamar la propuesta de derechos para los residentes de asociaciones. Cada residente va a tener derechos bajo de esta ley para los documentos financieros de su asociación y también para que los miembros de las asociaciones estén criminalmente responsables por las finanzas de sus asociaciones. Y obviamente con todos nuestros líderes aquí vamos a tener mucho apoyo en Tallahassee y espero que todos vamos a venir a apoyar la ley también. Quería darle las gracias a todos el día de hoy y gracias a la fiscal también.
Gracias. Commissioner González.
Buenas tardes, yo soy el comisionado del Distrito 11, Roberto J. González. Estoy aquí para decirles que hoy es una victoria para todos los residentes y dueños de casa que existen en Miami-Dade County. Pero esto solo es el principio. Y la razón que es el principio es porque es un paso para adelante para poder pasar una ley que va a impedir de que sigan aprovechándose de la gente que viven en las asociaciones. Eso simplemente ha pasado no solo por los grandes representantes que existen aquí, incluyendo nuestra fiscal, nuestra alcalde y el representante Porras, pero existen por gente que tomó la iniciativa de luchar no solo por su bolsillo, pero por sus derechos. Y me encantaría invitar a Ana que venga y les diga su historia, porque así es como se hace cambio en este condado, en este estado y en este país. se hace el cambio hablando y involucrándose en el proceso para que sus representantes y la gente que los representa a todos niveles los escuche y haga lo que se tiene que hacer para traerle justicia. Ana, por favor.
Gracias. Gracias a todos y gracias por la invitación de estar aquí. Bueno, en español yo creo que lo puedo hacer mucho mejor. Esto que tenemos aquí hoy y esto que estoy haciendo aquí hoy me pone emotiva porque hasta el día de hoy no teníamos una posibilidad de que se frenaran las injusticias. Hoy tenemos una tremenda posibilidad que si no la usamos es la responsabilidad de todos nosotros el haber perdido el tiempo y el esfuerzo en llegar hasta este momento. Tómenlo serio, participen. Nosotros no nos merecemos lo que nos ocurre, pero nos lo buscamos cuando no participamos. Estamos en Estados Unidos de América, este es un país de ley, tienen que confiar en la gente que nos representa, ¿ok? Yo 100% con esta ley, ojalá que la pudiera poner en más canales todavía. Gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias, Ana.
¿Otra más palabra? Por favor, Robert González.
Con lo que ha dicho Ana, es algo que todos tenemos que tomar en serio porque ahorita es el principio. Tenemos que luchar para que esta ley pase. Les voy a decir lo que yo voy a hacer en un nivel de condado. Yo, como comisionado del Distrito 11, estamos pasando una resolución que va a salir el martes, dándole una urgencia a los legisladores de la Florida que voten para que esta ley sea una realidad. Aparte de eso, el mismo martes yo me voy a montar en un avión, vamos a ir a Tallahassee y ayudar al representante Porras para explicarle a otros representantes la importancia que existe en este condado con la gente que vive en este condado, que tiene casa, que vive en condominios para poder pasar esta ley. Aparte de eso, si Dios quiere, cuando pase esta ley, vamos a hacer una resolución para hacer algo similar en el condado para que tenga una validez y se pueda luchar por la justicia. Gracias.
I was going to introduce.
Yeah, I was going to do the same.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to, perdón, en español. Quería dar la importancia que es nuestra comunidad estar involucrado en el proceso de hacer esta ley y apoyar esta ley, como dijo el comisionado, y mil gracias por su apoyo hasta ahora y lo esperemos en Tallahassee, pero también necesitamos gente de la comunidad que digan sus historias, sus cosas que han pasado en sus asociaciones. Y por eso tenemos miembros de la comunidad aquí que nos van a apoyar en Tallahassee. Vamos a tener guaguas de personas que van a venir a decir como lo importante que es esta ley. So, quería introducir al señor Carlos Villalobos, que está aquí el día de hoy.
Carlos.
Muchas gracias, fiscal. Muchas gracias, Juan Carlos. Para mí es un honor estar acá y especialmente darle las gracias, infinitas gracias. En Hammocks hemos pasado una pesadilla horrible y ha sido una pesadilla que nos ha costado también muchísimo dinero. Pero nosotros estamos saliendo poco a poco. Hace poco me decían acá en la fiscalía que han recibido no menos de 400 denuncias de condominios que están en el mismo caso. El problema continúa, el problema persiste. Y como decía el representante Juan Carlos Porras, tenemos que ir a Tallahassee y necesitamos el apoyo de todos los residentes de Hammocks. También tenemos una petición que está circulando, que es changehoa.com. Les ruego por favor que firmen la petición, porque esa petición ayuda a que la ley sea aprobada. Así que muchísimas gracias a la fiscal, al alcalde, a Juan Carlos y a nuestro investigador estrella, Emiliano Tamayo. Estamos súper agradecidos y vamos a ir todos a trabajar. Gracias.
Thank you, thank you. So in conclusion, I just also want to publicly dar las gracias a Emiliano Tamayo. He was the investigador que trabajaba día y noche, 24/7 en este caso. Gracias, Tamayo, por todo. Y John Pericles, bueno, él es el abogado que ayudaba a Emiliano y todos para tener este caso tan difícil y mucho exitoso con esta ley. Gracias, John. Ok, ¿preguntas para alguien?
Sí, me gustaría en español que explicaran cómo va a ser el proceso. Una vez que está la denuncia, cómo sigue esta denuncia, llega el DVPR, cómo sigue el proceso hasta FDLE.
Por supuesto, y gracias por la pregunta. Normalmente va a ser igual, un residente va a tener que quejarse al DVPR, pero ahora bajo esta ley, DVPR tiene la obligación de entre 72 horas, si hay una alegación de actividad criminal, tienen que mandárselo al FDLE, que es el Departamento de Law Enforcement del Estado, y el departamento investigará con todos los nuevos útiles que vamos a tener en la ley, los nuevos cargos criminalísticos, y con eso vamos a poder ayudar a nuestros fiscales estatales a todo el nivel estatal para ellos poder traer estos cargos a la corte.
¿Puede hablar de los cargos que se están pidiendo, los delitos, qué tiempo, por ejemplo, si se prueba que hay un soborno, si se prueba que esa persona pues desvió fondos, cuánto podría estar enfrentando criminalmente?
Bueno, algunos son felonías y se enfrentan desde 5 años hasta 15 años, y otros son de crímenes de menores, y entonces ese se enfoca en el nivel local. Y alcalde, ¿tú quieres decir algo? ¿Qué pasó?
Sobre cómo registrar.
Ok.
La necesidad.
Perdona. Go ahead.
En el condado tenemos una nueva ley que significa que todos los condominios, HOAs, tienen que reportar exactamente quiénes son, detalles de su presupuesto, algunos reportes sobre la seguridad, el edificio, reparaciones necesitadas, y eso es para hacer más transparencia. Y ya recién comenzó y estamos hablando con todos que participan, y si no participan hay una multa de $1,000 cada uno. Con esta ley eso sigue adelante con más protecciones todavía, pero aquí en el condado ya tenemos algo para mejorar el conocimiento de los residentes, para que ellos puedan tener más sabiduría y buscar la responsabilidad de los que están participando en el condominio board.
Gracias.
Okay.
Sí, bueno, el proceso legislativo en Tallahassee, la ley va a estar por varios diferentes comités, que en cada comité yo tendré que presentar la ley y debatir y contestar preguntas, y también miembros de la comunidad van a poder estar ahí para decir sus historias y lo que han pasado en sus asociaciones, y en eso es lo que estamos apoyando y diciéndole a las comunidades que vengan a esos comités. Y después de eso, obviamente, se pasaría al Senado y el gobernador lo tendría que firmar en ley.
Y nosotros vamos a estar allí también.
HB 919. Sí. Sí.
Ok.
Aclarar algo, yo tengo alguna duda.
Sí.
Yo creo que hasta ahora era necesario, obligatorio por ley, que las asociaciones pusieran en una página web todos los gastos de la asociación, o sea, era obligatorio por ley. ¿Qué cambia antes y ahora? ¿Cuál es el cambio que
No creo que esa es la ley.
Sí, anteriormente no había una ley que daría esa obligación. No.
No, hay una diferencia entre condominios y homeowners association. De condominios son más estrictas, hay más reglas, pero para las homeowners association no, y la mayoría viven en homeowners association. Además, puede tener en la ley que dice que tienes que hacer eso, pero si no lo hagas, ¿qué pasa? Nada. Eso es el problema.
Y esto lo eleva casi a un nivel de criminalización.
Y
Cuando tenemos eso, ya se puede hacer lo necesario para que esta gente se traiga a la justicia. Esto es inmenso, no solo para los que somos dueños de casa, pero también para la sociedad, que se le está dejando saber a todos los que se ponen o se postulan para las asociaciones que ahora hay cargos criminales que pueden existir si ellos violan estas restricciones.
Sí.
Es un proceso que va a tomar mucho tiempo. Este es un primer paso para poder solucionar el problema, pero es un paso muy, muy grande que no ha existido en el pasado.
Y como dijo la fiscal, quería decir, también la ley dice que cada asociación tiene que apuntar una persona para ser el miembro que lleva todos los records de la asociación, y eso es muy importante, que no estaba en ninguna ley anteriormente.
Sí. Ese fue un gran problema para los Hammocks, porque cuando fueron a la corte pidiendo dónde está, ¿quién tiene los records? Ese hombre ahí lo tiene. Ok, vamos allá. Fueron allá, no, yo no lo tengo, están por allá. Y era una frustración tremenda para todos, para los investigadores, para los dueños. 2 años buscando dónde están los records. Eso es ridículo. Entonces vamos a cambiarlo. Bueno, gracias a todos. Que tengan un buen fin de
Gracias.
semana. Gracias. Thank you. Nice job. Pastor.
Sure. I wish
You sound like you.